Hey everybody, welcome back and welcome in to another video. This one's going to be a little different. It's my first non-post-game recap. You see the title, The State of the Mariners, the Front Office. I'm kind of just going to dive into my thoughts more on Jerry Dipoto and what I think of the job he's done so far. Again, this is all personal opinion. You can agree, disagree, that's fine. I think we can all, have an honest, open discussion about it without getting personal, without thinking that someone's dumb for thinking a certain way. I certainly don't think that. I think there's plenty of valid reasons to be happy with what Jerry Dipoto's done. I think there's plenty of valid reasons to think he needs to be out as general manager for this team. If you're looking for my thoughts on Scott's service, I talked about it a couple times in some of my post-game videos. Fairly indifferent on Scott. Listen, I do not think he's the problem necessarily. I think guys aren't hitting, guys aren't pitching. Comes down to the players. But at the same time, Scott's in year 7 and has not made the playoffs yet either. So I can't sit here and say that he's been a massive success. Some of those years they were rebuilding, certainly not all his fault that they didn't get in. But overall, I'm fairly indifferent on Scott. I think the guys like him. I think that does matter as a manager. But it's not resulting in wins. They're 29-39. So I can't sit there and say I'd be shocked if something happened. Now, it looks like he did survive yesterday. Some of us weren't quite sure, but it looks like he is going to be good to know. I haven't heard anything today. So looks like he's managing today against Oakland. So hopefully they can get it turned around with Scott at the helm. I'm also not going to dive too much into ownership. I might say that for another video. I do have my thoughts on the ownership group of the Seattle Mariners. A lot of talking, are they opening the book for Jerry Dipoto? And I'll get into that a little bit because I don't think you can talk about Jerry without talking about the ownership group. But I'm not going to dive too much into it because, listen, I'm not privy to their checkbooks. I'm not privy to what they can spend, what they can't spend. I think they should spend more. But I also don't know if necessarily they're able to. I think they are. But, this is just going to be more of an assessment of Jerry Dipoto. I'll talk a little about ownership because, again, I don't think you can talk about some of the moves or lack of moves maybe that Jerry's made without talking about the ownership a little bit. Jerry Dipoto took over as general manager for the Mariners in 2015. Took over for Jack Zduriencik at the end of that 2015 season. And the one thing that Jerry and Jack both have in common, along with Bill Bavasi, the GM before Zduriencik, he has not made the playoffs yet as general manager of the Mariners. All three have failed differently. All three have succeeded differently, some more than others in areas. But one thing all three have managed to do is not get this team into the playoffs. I think all three took over some tough situations, and that includes Bavasi, who took over an aging roster with a pretty weak farm system from Pat Gillick. Pat Gillick, the GM before Bill Bavasi, did bring us the 116 season, but did leave the team a bit depleted. So, and Bavasi even did some good things with some trades and some prospects. Overall, did not do a very good job. So all three have inherited some tough situations, but all three have still not yet, Zduriencik, Bavasi certainly aren't going to do it, but including Dipoto have not delivered on what Mariners fans want. That's to see this team back in the playoffs. From that aspect alone, Jerry Dipoto has failed as general manager. He has not got this team there. There was some major league ready talent to win when he got here. Nelson Cruz, Robinson Cano, Felix Hernandez was still somewhat in his prime. Kyle Seager, you had James Paxton as well. And Jerry made some moves to get this team over the hump in 16, 17, and 18. Obviously, in 17 acquired Haniger and Gene Segura, along with D. Gordon in 2018. Sorry, let me just check something here real quick. And did make some moves to try to get this team to be a contender. They just did not get over the hump. They were close in 16. They were somewhat close in 18. Thought for sure in 18 they were going to do it, and they had that big lead. And Oakland just sort of stormed out and got it from them. But anyways, I digress on that. Jerry, like I said, did make some moves that I think were good, and some moves that not so good. Some of the forgotten ones, people forget, Danny Valencia was acquired by the Mariners before 2017 for Paul Blackburn. Mariners are going to see Paul Blackburn tomorrow from Oakland. I don't think he's quite as good as his numbers suggest, but he's still a capable, starting pitcher in this league. The Mariners traded Freddie Peralta to Adam Lynn. Freddie Peralta's been a very good pitcher for the Brewers. They traded for David Phelps and gave up Pablo Lopez to the Miami Marlins, who's been a very good starting pitcher. Now, I want to be clear, I'm okay. I don't mind giving up young talent to win now. I don't. I'm okay. If you want to go get Juan Soto, trade away some of the young talent. I'm okay, but you better make sure it's going to be the talent that delivers for you. Now, I get you can't guarantee acquiring anybody who wins you a World Series. That's just not how it works. We saw for fellow Seattle fans, the Seahawks to trade away a lot of first-round picks to get talent. I was okay with that. But you're seeing it kind of, in a different sport, but you're seeing it kind of catch up to them a little bit now. And same thing for the Mariners. At the time, I wasn't too much against those moves, but they didn't do enough to put the team over the top. And now those guys are all thriving, and the Mariners could really use some of them. Jerry Dipoto has not been very active signing free agents. The one free agent they got this year, Robbie Ray, from my understanding, I think most people, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Robbie Ray and his agent that reached out to Seattle and said he wanted to come here more than Jerry Dipoto, trying to go get Robbie Ray. Other than that, you look back, just not a lot of free agent acquisitions. Some very minor ones. At 16, I think he had like Steve Cishek, Joaquin Benoit, Nori Aoki, Ionetta. I'm not going to go through every year, but trying to think the Tim Beckhams of the world, and Beckham was just there for a stopgap in 2019. Pretty much everything Jerry's done, there's reasons they call him Trader Jerry, has been through trades. I'm okay with that. Trades can sometimes get you better cost-controlled players versus having to fork out a ton of money for guys that can burn out or maybe towards the end of their careers. I'm not against not blowing everything in free agency. But yeah, most of Jerry's moves have come via trade. Like I said, that in a vacuum of itself is okay. As far as this year goes, really looking at this offseason, a lot of the criticism given towards Jerry is for sort of not doing more, for lack of a better term, and kind of just doing what they did, and that was it. If you look at Sorry, I live in Arizona. It's very hot, so I need water every now and then. But where was I going? With the trades and free agency for this offseason for the Mariners, a lot of the criticisms were him not going out and getting free agent guys. And listen, I do understand. I wish the team had done a little bit more. My frustration isn't so much on this offseason. I think you can make some cases that Jerry did the right thing, avoiding some of these big-time free agents. And I'm not sure, and this is where I'm going to defend Jerry a little bit, exactly what big names everybody wanted to go get. I know Trevor Story was a name that was thrown around a lot. And the Mariners, from my understanding, did go after him, and he took either less or the same money, maybe a little bit more, to go to Boston. Now listen, would Trevor Story be better than Adam Frazier right now at second base? Yes, but Trevor Story's been worth 1.6 WAR so far this year per Fangraphs. Adam Frazier's been worth 0.6. So if you plug in Trevor Story there, you could still get Frazier. Maybe he fills in for Toro, and you are looking at probably like a 2-win better team, but it still puts you at 31-37. So I'm not sure if that would have necessarily done it, and you'd be tied to Trevor Story's contract. Chris Bryant, I'll pull up his numbers here for WAR at least, but I mean he's been hurt and hasn't played. He was a name that people wanted to go get, and just going to pull him up real quick here. If I can. Chris Bryant's been worth negative 0.3 WAR in 73 at-bats. I think Chris Bryant's a better player than that, but I mean, that's worse than any of the Mariners are giving them right now. So Chris Bryant wouldn't be doing anything for the team right now. He'd be injured, and he'd be in the same position you were in. People did mention Carlos Correa and moving J.P. Crawford off of shortstop as a possibility. And sort of the criticism was that they committed to J.P. Crawford kind of at the end of last year. Dipoto pretty much said, hey, J.P. is our guy. We're not moving off of that. I would have been totally fine. Go get Carlos Correa and move on from J.P. But if you look at, for them for WAR, I wouldn't be surprised if JP's doing better. I'll pull it up right now. Carlos Correa is currently at 1.1 WAR, and JP Crawford, let's see if I can pull it up here. There's Cover Crawford, who shut down the Mariners, no shock. JP Crawford is at 1.8. I mean, okay, maybe put Correa at second. Okay, and then he's 0.6 wins better than Adam Frazier. And I know this is just what they've done so far. Fully expect those guys to be better, but are missing out on some of those guys really what's keeping the Mariners? I think we all agree Jesse Winker was a good move, and he hasn't hit. I think that's, again, a far bigger issue, and I don't think that's Jerry Dipoto's fault. There are some things, maybe Winker coming over from the NL was an issue, but, I don't know. I don't think I can look at some of these free agents and say that, Jerry Dipoto missed out on these guys. And remember, outside of Correa, these guys are all tied to huge contracts. Did we want Chris Bryant for 7 years and almost 200 or whatever? I don't remember the exact contract details, but I don't think any of us would be happy with that. That contract looks like it could be a disaster. I would have been fine with Trevor Story, but again, you'd be tied to a lot of years of him. And I don't see where putting in Trevor Story for Adam Frazier makes this team a whole heck of a lot better. Now, there's always moves out there. Maybe there were some trades Jerry could have done also to improve some of the depth on this team that he didn't. There's also been people who've been critical of not adding pitching depth. Tyler Anderson was a free agent who's been phenomenal with the Dodgers. I think he's 9-0. Again, I don't put a lot of stock in a win-loss, but his other numbers have been phenomenal as well. And I would have been fine with the Mariners bringing him back, on a one-year deal or whatever, and having him in the rotation. I had no problem with that whatsoever. But, I don't think anybody expected him to have these kind of numbers so far this year for Tyler Anderson, not to take away from him, but I think anybody saw that coming. And the pitching depth's been okay. Ray is fine. I know he's been a little up and down, but that wasn't going to bump Robbie Ray out of the rotation. Marco would have been there. Flexen would probably still have been there. Logan would have been there, probably would have been your fifth starter. And honestly, they got some bad starts from Matt Brash when he started the rotation, but I think George Kirby's been fine. I don't think Tyler Anderson versus George Kirby, unless you're worried about maybe Kirby being up and maybe he could have gotten more season in the minors, but I don't think that seems to be affecting George Kirby. People talk about adding catching depth. And again, if you look at Tom Murphy's numbers from last year, he was probably one of the better hitting catchers in the AL. It's not a very good group. And even Cal Raleigh, what he's done since coming back up, has been okay. I think they've been a little snake bit there. I think they had a decent catching trio there with Murphy, Torrens, and Raleigh. And Murphy's been hurt, which maybe they should have anticipated a little bit better. But Torrens went from hitting home runs last year to not hitting any this year. I think Cal Raleigh's shown some decent development. And I get it. I talked about in my last video. You have guys like Mitch Haniger. You can't rely on him to play 162. Kyle Lewis. You can't rely on him to, unfortunately, give you much of anything this year. Going in with Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez as everyday players was risky. But as far as this offseason goes, I don't know if there was a ton out there for the team to really add to that depth as much as we may have wanted them to. And knowing how much Jerry loves to trade, I'm sure he did look into other moves via trade to make this better. Now, I could go back through every offseason. There may have been some free agents they missed on previously that could have been good additions for this team. Listen, they are 22nd in payroll. But I don't think that all falls on Jerry. There's been some rumors that, ownership opened up their pockets for him to spend. So a couple things with that. If that's true, then again, I go back to these contracts we talked about. Do you want these? Do you want Chris Bryant's contract? I don't. Do you want Trevor Story's? I'd be okay with it, but I don't think it would have changed anything this year. Correa's would have been fine, but again, I think you're okay with JP, and then, so you're either looking at moving Correa to second. We don't know if he would have done that, or you're looking at moving on from JP, who honestly looking at by WAR, has been better than Carlos Correa this year. I don't think that's going to hold true for the rest of the season necessarily, but it has been up to this point. So that's number one. Number two, if they did open their pocketbooks and Jerry was like, no, this is my team, we're fine. I don't know. I think he would have been close to gone by now. And maybe he will be. I don't know. Maybe Jerry's seat is hotter than we think it is. So, we'll see on that. But I have a feeling that either one, if, like I said, if they did that, look at these free agents, I'm not sure if these are the guys we wanted. And then number two, I don't know if Jerry would be around and be able to justify this team to that ownership group with what they've currently done. People talk about some of the trades for pitchers. Manaea got traded. Frankie Montas has been on the block forever, has not been traded yet. Trades are so hard. Trades that GMs don't make are so hard to judge because we just don't know. Maybe Jerry was in there on the Sean Manaea deal and they just felt they got a better offer from the Padres. He might be calling, the A's every day and asking about Frankie Montas. The A's might be hesitant to trade in the division, and the Mariners might be hesitant. They might want Julio. They might want Marte. I might be willing to do that. Not Julio, but Marte. But again, Peralta for Adam Lind in 5 years when Marte's in the A's lineup every day and destroying us, and we had 2 years of Frankie Montas, people are going to be upset. So we just don't know what, has gone on in trades that haven't happened. I think DePoto's done a real nice job rebuilding this farm system. I do think there is some good young talent that is shown itself in the majors or is close to developing. I think you do have trade pieces that you can go get guys. I think, for instance, the Mariners could put together a package to get Juan Soto. If both sides wanted to do that, I'm not saying the Nats are trading him maybe, or the Mariners are necessarily going to trade their prospects, but if it was announced tomorrow, like Ken Rosenthal was like, hey, Juan Soto's available, the Mariners would be a team talked about. They do have the pieces to go get somebody like that. And what I say in the beginning of the video, having that farm system for two reasons. One, to have those players, and two, to be able to go get superstars potentially down the road. Like I said, the team is 22nd in payroll. I don't know how much of that is on Jerry. And there are some rumors that Jerry doesn't, some of the stuff with Kyle Seager last year saying the guys don't like him, essentially. And then some rumors that players don't really want to come play for him. I will be critical of him on that if it's true. That's not good stuff to hear. If anything, I think a GM should be more welcoming of players. You're kind of the first face they see when they come into the facility. So if that's true what Seager said, or allegedly I should say, I'm not privy to all that, but allegedly that the team didn't like Jerry DePoto, and then that the unwillingness of some free agents to come here, that is concerning. To have essentially a face of a franchise in the front office be someone the guys don't really want to come play for, the guys in the locker room don't like. You can win without liking your GM. You probably don't see them on a daily basis, but you'd rather have them have a good relationship with that person. So that would be my far bigger concern down the road if the checkbooks do get opened up, is that if guys don't want to come here and play for Jerry. But overall, I think he has done some decent things for this team. However, with all of this said, zero, that's the okay, I don't know, zero playoff appearances so far. So we can say all this, and that's why I said at the beginning, one thing Bavasi, Zarinsek, and DePoto all have in common, none of them made the playoffs with the Seattle Mariners. So, they've all done things a little bit different than each other, but in the end, DePoto doesn't deserve a very good grade because he hasn't gotten the team there yet. I understand they went into 19 looking at a rebuild, and they did a good job of that. I said that. I think the farm system's in good shape. And I'm not against it. They didn't spend money on a lot of these free agents last year. I don't want a lot of those guys. Or if we did get them, I don't think you'd be seeing this massive improvement on the team either. But he still has not gotten this team to the pinnacle, and he's got to find a way to do it. And it's got to be sooner rather than later, because fans have waited 20 years. It's been long enough. I mean, longest drought of making the playoffs of a professional sports franchise. Mariners fans have a right to be upset. I understand when people are sitting there going, you got to be patient, trust the process. We're kind of done. We're kind of done. I get the process. I respect what DePoto's done. I do think this team is in good shape. It's got some great young talent. Ty France, JP, Julio, even Cal Raleigh, Kirby, Logan Gilbert. Guys in the bullpen like Penn Murphy, Matt Brash down at Tacoma. You still have Kellenick, Taylor Trammell, Marte, Emerson Hancock. You've got guys that are there in the minors that could be ready to explode. That is an awesome thing. That is exciting for this team. But they've got to find a way some point to connect those prospects to either winning major league players or to, not the guys like Francis are prospects, but that young talent with major league guys to create a winner. Because so far it hasn't done it. It has not done it yet. They're going to say, oh, Julio's only 21 and Kellenick's only this, and that's fine. I agree with that. But fans have waited a long time. We want a team that's going to go out there and make the playoffs. So I do think there's a core here that can do it. I think if Jerry was fired tomorrow, depending on, I don't know about the ownership, depending on some things there, I do think a GM would be coming into a very nice situation. And some of these issues, like I said, might be even higher than Jerry. It's hard for me to go too far into ownership because I just don't know. I don't know what they're sitting on budget-wise. I don't know what they're sitting on dollars-wise. So it's hard for me to get too much into that. I think they should be opening up the checkbook a little bit more, but I also, like I said, look at some of these guys, and it wasn't exactly, I think a list that would have put the Mariners over the top. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Jerry Dipoto. It's kind of scattered, which is kind of typical for the Mariners. It's kind of a scattered organization right now. I think that's fair. If I had to give him a grade, I give him a C. It really is. It's in the middle there. I don't think he's failed. I think he has done some really good things for this organization. But it's still, I can't give him a B or an A as he made the playoffs yet. So I don't think you can give him, and sometimes results do matter. And, there was a lot of people thought Brian Sabian was a terrible GM for a long time in San Francisco. Then he went on and got himself 3 rings. So you can say what you want about him, but he ended up winning. So that'll be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on Jerry Dipoto, your thoughts on the Seattle Mariners organization in general. I'll be back tonight with the post game for the Mariners and A's tonight. You've got I think Marco's going against Caprillion for the A's at 6:40. So I'll be watching that, and then I'll do a post game video talking about that as well. So I'll see you guys later tonight. Thanks for watching. Oh, and please like, subscribe, comment. Really helps me out. Just a fellow Mariners fan, like I said, just try and make videos and entertain you guys, and maybe, just give you a little reprieve from the daily routines of life. So please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys tonight. Thank you.